So hi, welcome to Noise Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
Kailee Morgue.
All right, so some questions today about our new album, Girl Next Door. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to it so far?
I feel really good. I kind of forget that I put out a full-length album. I don't know why. It just feels like the whole process takes a lot longer than everyone thinks. So I think once it's out, I'm like, oh, cool. Like I've been marinating in this for like 2 years, but I'll just let y'all sit with that. So I think I'm still like just kind of taking it all in, but it's been overwhelmingly supportive and kind because I've never put out a project this long. And I think everyone's just like, yes, because before it was just singles and EP for 4 years straight.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. Well, the album rocks.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Yeah, so they're both kind of like stem from different places, and it's a kind of a long story, but I'll get into a short version of it. I was originally going to be doing a concept EP called Bad Witch, and it was going to be this 4-part series, and I wanted to mess around with special effects and this whole storyline, and it ended up not happening, and we went with doing a full album instead, which is way harder to do a concept thing. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to incorporate pieces of what I wanted to do with that. So I had a music video where I wanted to do the Buffy the Vampire Slayer makeup. It was for the second song on the album. It's called Arizona Pretty, but it ended up not happening. So I was like, I'm just going to like figure out a way to incorporate it. So I did it with the cover art. And then I liked the irony of calling it Girl Next Door and then having this like kind of fucked up makeup and how it kind of metaphorically explained me trying to like fit into this thing and trying to be appealing to people in the mainstream as far as being an artist while feeling like I'm actually not like that. So it's kind of a cool cover art, cool title, but also means something to me in that way. Mm-hmm. But it was really fun. I just had to do the makeup somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you had this concept EP that wound up falling through. Does that mean that the record wound up having a concept behind it, or was it just kind of like certain ideas from that concept EP made it into?
Yeah, I would say it was like certain ideas. Pretty much every song for that EP is on the album. There was, obviously the title track, Bad Witch. I had a song called Bad Witch that just didn't fit because it was a little bit more slow. It was because I really have an issue with liking so many different sounds, and I'm inspired by so many different artists and bands that I kind of make a lot of shit that'll be inspired by this and by this. Like right now I love country music, which is such a hot take, but I'm like, okay, just because you like this doesn't mean you need to sound like this.
Yeah. So, please, God, don't.
Yeah. It's like, so yeah, there's some songs that I was like, this doesn't fully fit the project, but most of them are on there. So it kind of just was like, feels like it needs to be a full-length thing. And I wanted to also be able to do that so I can show my versatility while also keeping it cohesive. Mm-hmm. It was like rewarding to do that versus trying to, envelope who I am in 6 songs,
Yeah. Did you feel like the album gave you more of an opportunity to kind of like show yourself as an artist on all sides? Did you feel like when you were doing EPs and singles, you were kind of put in this box genre-wise?
Yeah, I think I also didn't know what I was capable of, to be honest. I think I was kind of, in the beginning when I first started making music, my process was so different where I kind of was just, I didn't know what I was inspired by. I didn't really have any references. I was just like, yeah, that sounds cool. And like, that's my only point of reference. I just feel like, yeah, that feels cool. And the more I dove into being an artist, the more I kind of was finding inspiration from books, movies, music, just all the stuff that I can I figured out I could pull from without needing to, because a lot of people are like, oh, I literally referenced this Paramore song. I literally referenced this, but I like to reference like a lot of different shit. So I think with the EPs, I was kind of just messing around and it turned into a little, oh yeah, I guess these 4 songs sound cool together. And I think with this album, I think there's still a lot that I didn't showcase because I wanted it to feel alternative, because I'd been making like pop punk and alternative before the wave happened. And then it just, you know how that works. Like you make a song, it's not going to come out for a year or 2. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I might as well just do this 100%. And then like, while it's kind of happening right now, while it's what's happening in music, and just go hard on the rock thing. And I think there's still a lot of other stuff I do that people like I said, like I just pull from a lot of different stuff, but I think I got to show that at least with this album, and that made me really happy because I grew up listening to alternative and rock music, and it's also so fun to perform, which I just learned from making pop music and with some alternative elements, and then performing alt songs is just completely different performance. It's really fun.
Hell yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for this album?
Yeah, it was different for a lot of it because I think most people go in with one producer or a couple producers. In this one, I did half the album with one producer and then half of it with just kind of like cherry picking from doing sessions with different people. And I like that because I think I would like to do an album with one person where you can kind of just really figure out, nail something down, be like, what else do we need? What have we kind of like really cracked the code on? I love doing that, but I also love, I'm never going to close myself off to doing sessions with new people and kind of being like, what can we make when you bring in a different writer that does this type of stuff, and like kind of figuring out what you can get creative with when it's not just one person or two people in the room. So yeah, most of the album, like half of it was honestly me just sitting in my living room on guitar, writing the song and then bringing it to a producer. That's how a lot of it started. And it would be from like the example I gave earlier, I read Bridget Jones' Diary and I made End of My Life completely just like talking about that book. And it's weird because I think it's one of the more personal songs to, if you don't know what it's about, it's like, oh yeah, it's just like me being angsty in my 20s, but it's just completely ripping off a book. So like I just, because the older I get to in the stages of life that I'm in, I'm like, I don't always want to just have to like search to this really sad core of myself to have something to write about. So I've just really started getting into film when the pandemic hit. I like hadn't seen so many classic movies and I hadn't been interested in it. So I really dove in, and now I read like 60 books a year because I just got into that too. So I really started kind of getting creative with the writing process and challenging my ability to story tell and not just talk about myself and like what's making me sad today. So yeah, a lot of it was that. And then some of it too was going in with writers and kind of saying, this is like what I'm into, this is what's happening in my life. And you get a lot of different perspective that way when you go in with writers, and they can kind of like, I like this idea, but what if we tweaked it to be like this? And that's how you get a song like Trainwreck, for example, which was just like 5 people in the room and we're all like, how do we make this the best song it can possibly be?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Is that your cat?
The cat.
Yeah, this is Ozzy. He's
Hi, Ozzy.
Hi, Ozzy. Oh,
he's like, I hear you talking. What's going on?
I love orange cats so much. They're so mischievous.
Yeah, orange cats are a different breed. I've honestly never met a cat like him. He's more like a dog at this point. But
That's amazing. Oh my god. So what song off this album took the longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
that answer changes all the time because I think all of the songs, you got to think like there's songs that I sat with for like so long making them. The longest one I would say was Loser because I made it like 2 or 3 years before the album came out. So it was kind of, hey, sorry, but they're fighting right here. Oh my god, stop. My dog and my cat are like fighting right here.
No.
They're just playing, but okay, chill out. Okay. The longest song to make, like the one that took the longest was Loser because I wrote it like 3 years ago. And by the time that we were getting closer to the album coming out, I was like, I just want to change some of this because it feels the older I'm getting, the more different my life is getting. It just felt like it didn't fit me the same. So that one was just like a push and pull of like, no, I want to change this verse, and no, this bridge feels weird, and just like actually changing the lyrics like 3 or 4 times before I really liked it. And also I just think like it was a hard song to sing because it was in the beginning of me experimenting with belting and doing the rock thing. And you'd be surprised, like you can't, when you're doing like whispery dark pop, which what I was doing in the beginning, it's like you can't just transition to these powerful belty rock songs like that. Like it took me a while of making these songs and singing them to like build that ability to sing that way. So that one took a long time. And my favorite right now, I don't know, it changes a lot. I think I always love All Right Okay. That one's so fun. It's just like, I don't know, that one's one of those ones where like I didn't think too much about writing it, and I just kind of let it happen naturally, and the groove of it and the feeling of it feels so good with the heavy toms and the drums. It's just really fun.
Hell yeah. All right.
Perfect. Love it.
So had the track list for the album come about, did you write the opener be the opener, closer be the closer? Did you shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
That process took forever. I I had my A&R like messaging me like, we need the track list. Like, we have the album. What do you, like, what are we waiting for here?
Mhm.
I was just like overthinking it so much because those things are really important. The flow of it, just top to bottom, was something to think about. Opening track, even the second track, like all that stuff. You're really trying to put the most, what feels like the intro, you're trying to put it up top, but also knowing the people that don't have the attention span to listen to the full length project, they're really only going to stick around for the first few songs. It's like making an impression.
Yeah.
And then the outro also mattered to me because that's just like the final moment. I wanted it to be uplifting, so I chose Sell Out for that one because it's kind of like one of the only kind of happy songs, I guess, on there where there's like a positive silver lining in there. So I just was like, okay, I'm gonna end it with something like that that also just hits really hard in that last hook. And then I wanted to open it with End of My Life because I felt like, even though I said it was completely about a book, like I was just like, it really encompassed to me what I liked to sound like and like what this album to me felt like. And it was really made for people like in their early 20s to me, or just people like, I was kind of saying throughout the whole process of making the album, this is like me talking to my inner teenager and like healing my inner child. So like to me, that song really encompassed that. And I wanted to just find one track on the album that like opened it with like, okay, this will kind of set you up for what you're in for. And then obviously the second song going into like this hyper femme type, like just Alanis Morissette-esque acoustic pop song, and then going to just the harder tracks like Trainwreck. Like I just kind of put a lot of thought into sprinkling a little bit of everything in the first like 4 tracks, and then after that it's like you kind of know what you're in for.
Yeah. So you said you pull from all sorts of different influences. Do you think that like pulling from these books and these movies allows you to kind of write in a storytelling kind of way, but also like talk about what's going on but not be super like vulnerable in doing that? Because you're like, you talk about how you relate to this song that like is pretty much a ripoff about this book, but you keep bringing it up about how it's like the quintessential song of this album.
I think, yeah, because I would say, I don't know if it's the quintessential song of like the entire, because I know I said it opens it, but I think it's like, it just, regardless of if you read the book or not, it's a really relatable feeling. And I think that's why I connected with the book so much, even because the book is like about this woman. She's obviously a little bit older because the whole point is that she's like a woman in her 30s. Like, this is written in the 90s. Like, she's not married. She doesn't have kids. She's like, I feel like I'm kind of behind in life and like I feel lost and all this stuff, but it's a comedy. It's like a rom-com. So there's something like about that I think it keeps hitting me that way because it is like relatable, and it's like I think I like dove into these mediums because there was a way of expressing those things that I hadn't thought of, you know what I mean? So with this book, it felt like that feels like me, but I just like haven't described it that way. So I was able to pull from it in a way that like it really encompassed me, but it's inspired by this thing that said the same things in a different way. So I think yeah, I pull a lot of, but there are things that like I don't relate to at all. And I think that's why it's interesting to be like, oh, I'm going to write something loosely based on this movie or this book, because I don't think I would have even arrived there on my own. It's like a completely different story, but I can relate to it somehow, but it's just not something I would have been like, yeah, this is happening in my life. But that one in particular, yeah, it was just like, that's me. But then you have tracks like that, Arizona Pretty, that comes right after. That is literally just me talking about me and only pulling inspiration from real life conversations I've had about my own insecurity and the similar kind of feelings. That it is more vulnerable, but I don't know, because I think I avoid getting vulnerable, and that's why so much of the album is sarcastic, because I don't ever talk about something in like this is sad and the song feels sad and it's all depressing. Like there's always like an upbeat song with sad lyrics, or it's just like sad lyrics but there's a sarcastic twist in it somewhere, so I don't like fully just get there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
Yeah, I think a lot of the record was me kind of fighting with this, kind of what I was saying with the album title. Even it's me trying to fit into this thing and trying to be appealing to people. And I think as much as everyone talks about this thing and we're all like, yeah, social media sucks and blah, blah, it's just a kind of overdone conversation, but it's fucking real. And I had a hard time in between labels, in between music cycles, like how do I stay relevant? How do I keep posting this stuff when I really only care about music? And fighting that like need to share with people because that's my job, and also wanting to like fuck off and not do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of it was kind of me battling with like wanting to lead a normal life and like seeing that in my family, like my sister being just a little bit older than me, but she's a nurse and has kids and a family. I'm like, wow, like that's a lifestyle and a life path that I didn't choose. And kind of battling with living in LA and feeling out of place too, because I come from Phoenix, which is a pretty big city, but it feels like small town vibes. Like everyone I know that goes there, like, oh yeah, it does feel like small town vibes. It's just really slow. And I feel for a long time, I felt like just out of place in LA, and it doesn't feel natural to me to like promote my music and to just be on TikTok and try to try to act like I'm just like, you know, comfortable with that stuff. So I think that was part of it. And also just being at that awkward stage after you're a teenager, but before you have everything figured out. And I think I'm just now, like I'm turning 25 this year and kind of reaching that comfortability with myself and like my own maturity and my own everything I've gone through kind of leading me to this point and asking myself like what I want from life. So it's kind of in that in-between stage of just like, who am I? And what is all of this for?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a huge existential crisis, which also I think everyone had a small version of that when you're locked inside for 2 years. But it was just a lot happening and a lot of reflection. But I definitely want to veer away from, I want to open up the conversation with my music in the future, because I think it was very just introspective and kind of like in my head and kind of sad. But I feel like it was necessary because that's how I was feeling. And I think a lot of people felt like that.
Yeah. So like obviously musician first, but in this day and age, everybody's a content creator when you're doing the music. So how do you kind of like keep the balance there, especially since you said it's like you're not super comfortable with the whole kind of being this like persona, you know? Yeah.
I guess if I were to have like advice or like how I handle that situation is I think I do what I can to promote. I think I could definitely be doing it more. But I keep a lot of my own life and a lot of things that are personal to me, like my day-to-day, and even just people, like things that I do for fun and a lot of that stuff. Like I'll post it here and there, but I keep a lot of it for myself. And I think that's so important that like a lot of things I do, a lot of things I enjoy, I'm not always like, can you hear my cat? I'm not always like posting it or just like not everything needs to be promotion and not everything needs to be for everyone, even though I'm an artist and in these songs I'm talking about these personal things. I think that was the balance for me, is like I can talk about this in my music, but I don't always need to be venting and sharing on the internet. And totally fine if you do, but that's where my comfortability, you know, was, where I was just like, I like talking about it in my music because it's an art form, but on the internet, like I like to keep a lot of things for myself. And in that way, I think they become more special when I'm like, not everyone is seeing this. And like, this is something that I don't have to share. And also just, if you have to, we inevitably, like you said, we have to promote, we have to use TikTok, we have to do that stuff because that's just what music has become. So I think I've just figured out what is like the best way of doing that isn't just like something that doesn't feel natural to me, because I'm not the type of person that is like, you know, I'm gonna be in the car like showing my mom this song. Like,
oh no. Yeah.
My mom's already heard the song and it's not gonna happen right now.
The reaction was a stone face. She just told me it was good.
Like I've already heard this. Like that type of stuff. I kind of just, I got creative with like, I think the most effort I put into a TikTok was just like if you like these things, you might like these things. And it was just me talking about my love for horror movies, for the 90s, for that like early 2000s Hilary Duff era. I was kind of trying to like paint the picture for people to, like lay the landscape of like, set the scene of what this album is. So that when you go and listening to it, it's like, oh yeah, I do hear like the Lindsay Lohan influence and all these things. And that makes it 10 times cooler because you know this headspace in this world I was living in when I made it. So to me, that was like the most genuine way of doing that. But I'm still figuring it out. Like I definitely don't promote as much as I should, but it's just a weird line to walk with like feeling embarrassed.
Yeah. And
So,
like, although I haven't seen your TikTok, your Twitter and your Instagram are almost kind of like mysterious in a way, because like you don't overshare. So like in a way, I feel like it captivates people and like keeps them interested, because they're just like, what the fuck is she doing? Because you don't really, your tweets are cryptic and your captions are just kind of like emojis. Like,
I know yeah, that's not on accident. I definitely, like I said, I like to keep things for myself, but also I think people underestimate, there's certain artists that I think you listen to and you love the fact that they're so transparent. You love that you feel like you know this person. You feel like there's artists that just really kill like that, like I make music in my bedroom and like this is all my, like my heart is on my sleeve. You guys know me so well. This is, and that's why you love them. And I don't think I'm one of those people, just because like I don't think I could ever do that, but I think when you're not like that, you have to have a bit of a mystique to you, and you have to do that for the art to mean something, in my opinion. So I think that that's always good, because I don't want to become too like, oh yeah, it's just that bitch that makes music. It's like not important. Right. She already talks about that stuff on Twitter all the time.
Yeah. Exactly. So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should they do it in a car with friends, in the dark with headphones on? Is it a workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
I mean, I hate being cliche, but I just think that driving is the best thing. I don't know. I would say if you're not driving, like maybe go for it. Because sometimes that's the only way I listen to albums. There's three ways usually. I'm in the car, sounds better anyways, and I just like you can kind of have something to do. I like going on walks at night specifically, with headphones, and I'll have like I have these like 90s headphones. It always feels like a vibe. Yeah. Or I used to do this more when I was like when I was a teenage girl, and I had like the coolest room ever, and I had like the mood lights and everything. So around that time, I would just like set the lights to purple, and like I would be drawing or something, and just like listening to an album and not listening to it in order, and just letting it play. And I think it has to be something that you're intentionally doing to me. I think some people are like, yeah, I'm just going to skim this. And, a lot of people are more passive listeners, but I would say this specific album, yeah, let's like set those lights to pink. Let's put on like Mean Girls or something in the background. Like, let's have it be, this is like me talking about girlhood and adulthood and how that all feels. So it's like something that I think, like I said, it's just for like teenage girl me. And that's how I would have done that.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. So this one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Moody. So annoying. I would say like, oh, this is so hard. Moody. I would say like, I don't know how to describe this, but when I'm saying like hyper femme, I mean it's like glittery sometimes. And then I would say spooky, because a lot of it's inspired by horror movies and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Do you have any horror movies in specific? I love horror movies. I'm getting into them now.
Do you guys know when this is coming out?
Like 2 weeks? Couple weeks?
If you're gonna spoil something, we can hold it.
Yeah.
Okay, so well, it's not spoiling anything. I just haven't, like, everyone knows, but I haven't posted it yet. But I have a song in the next Scream movie.
I was gonna ask you about this.
10 out of 10 Scream movies, which is like, I'm not even just saying this. It's gonna be like, okay, you have a song in a Scream movie. That's my favorite horror franchise of all time. So I'm like,
that's huge.
Not be any more perfect. So that's my favorite one. But I also, like I said, I like a little bit of comedy and things. I like the kind of meta plots when they're like on the set making a Scream movie while they're actually making a Scream movie.
Yeah.
And like the self-referential horror movie dialogue. I just really love that stuff. But I also really like the Halloween franchise. I'm very much into like the 80s, 90s stuff. I love A Nightmare on Elm Street. I really got into all that stuff. I hadn't seen any of it until like 4 years ago. Oh, wow. And I dove in. So yeah. I would definitely start with the classics.
Absolutely. Good picks.
So the Scream movie song, that's the Mike Shinoda song you have, right?
Yeah, it was very random. Like, he literally messaged me on Instagram. I actually got like a new phone number a while ago. So he's like, hey, like, I've been trying to text you. I have this song for Scream. Do you want to be on? I'm like, yes. I met him like one other time for this project he was working on. That was just kind of something random he's been doing over the years. Maybe one day it'll see the light of day. But he just messaged me just based on that, and because I have End of My Life, that music video is completely inspired by Scream. So he's like, yeah, I showed Paramount and they love it. I was like, you showed the people that
Whoa.
are working on Scream my shitty music video. I literally like no budget music video, but it was, I mean, it's awesome. I'm really excited, and we're going to be filming some teasers that'll probably be out by the time this comes out, where we're actually going to be having dialogue with Ghostface, and it's going to be the real person that voices Ghostface.
Oh, wow.
So it's just like one of the highlights of my career because I just love Scream so much.
That's so
awesome.
fucking cool, dude.
So
I love Scream. I can't imagine, like, that's me. I'm so happy it's happening for you. That's like,
yeah, it's insane. I'm really excited.
That's fucking
as you
nuts.
should be.
I do think the funniest part about how all of this was announced was just Mike Shinoda doing an interview like, oh, by the way, I have this song with Kailee Morgue, and I was like, that's fucking
I haven't posted it because, and this will already be out too by the time this comes up, but I haven't posted it because Paramount is making me my own Scream poster, like with me on it. So I'm like, okay, I gotta wait till I have that in hand because I need something like that, you know, everyone will know what that is when they see it. So I'm just really excited, but it's gonna be fun.
hell yeah.
Dude, you gotta frame that. You gotta post that everywhere.
I
That's
know.
crazy.
I'm not gonna stop talking about it for the rest of my life.
No, completely fair. Oh my god.
So is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
I guess with everything I make really ever, I always want it to kind of feel cathartic because I think that's what I listen to music for. I think a lot of times, like I said, with exploring different mediums or even just listening to other artists' music, there's so many times when they are saying something or the song sounds a certain way that I'm like, I can't even verbalize that, but it just touches something. It's like itching a scratch in my brain. And that's what I hope for people that are listening to it, that it's kind of like, okay, I feel exactly like that. Because a lot of people, I can't even imagine like what it feels like to not make music because that's my entire life. But I'm sure music just feels more cathartic that way when you don't make it yourself, because it's like I can't even understand that art form, but it's relatable to me and it kind of says something for me. So that's what I want the listeners to feel, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Good. So what is your favorite memory that you've made while creating this album?
I think a lot of my favorite memories are of the album well, I do love the visuals. The visual side of it, I think I'm more passionate than some artists. I know some artists are kind of like, whatever, like let's have some treatments written, like let me get like a creative director. But I'm very like, I wrote the treatment for End of My Life and sent it to a director. I was like, can you help me with this? So I love thinking about the photo shoots, doing the SFX makeup, doing we did every single cover art. We had 8 singles, 7 singles, and then the album cover. We did all of them in 2 days. So it was back to back, like switching outfits, changing hair, changing makeup, rushing over to like a different part of the studio. So I loved that part because I conceptualized every single cover art. And I, with, working with what we got. And I always think that's fun too, honestly, to just like get creative with a small budget. But I think other than the visuals, there were so many songs, like I said earlier, that just started with genuine like epiphanies or just little like, oh, that would be a cool song. And then to think back on those moments and know that like it turned into a full song and now it's on my debut album is just really cool. Like Arizona Pretty, for example, started with a conversation I was having with my boyfriend, where I was just really just venting, and I was just like, I feel so like in my element in Arizona. I feel so normal, so like pretty even. Like I just feel like fine when I'm out there. When I come here, there's this immediate comparison to everyone here. Mm-hmm. And there's kind of this like competition that's unsaid with, having a certain look and a certain talent. And it doesn't feel that way in Arizona. And I remember I was kind of like, yeah, maybe I'm just like, I feel like I'm just Arizona pretty. Like I'm not LA pretty. And he's like, that's a song title. And I was like, so we wrote this song together, and it's just things like that I guess it just felt like such a real moment of like turning an actual thought into a song in an instant. Mm-hmm. And so that happened a few times with other songs on there, and even like End of My Life and I Sell Out too, and some of the ones that I'm trying to think. Another Day in Paradise too was such a fun one. I wrote that on my couch and literally looked over on the shelf, like looking for all of our books, just to be like, what would be a cool song title? Like, what are we writing here? And we already had this verse written, and my boyfriend's uncle, he passed away, but he had this like whole book and movie written about his life, and it was called Another Day in Paradise. So there's just little fun facts and things like that. There's like, we encompassed like this whole thing, this deeper meaning into this song that we just wrote on our couch. So there's a lot of memories like that are just so interesting to me, that how art is created and how we can just take little moments like that, and now it's like a song that lives on Spotify. You know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh.
So picture this: you're on tour, you're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
My snack of choice. I have a tour coming up, so I should definitely.
Yes, you're planning.
Okay, I like Chex Mix, but like the sweet ones with the cookies.
Oh,
I like the Fritos barbecue twists. Those ones, so good. What do I like? I like sweet tea, but I just started drinking coffee, so maybe I'll be more of a coffee person now, but sweet tea. And then, have you seen those Hello Panda? They're like these little.
Oh my god.
So good. Those are like because you gotta have something for me. I need something sweet, salty, and then a drink. And that's it.
Right, all together.
Are you like chocolate Hello Panda or like the strawberry?
I haven't tried strawberry, so I don't know. Maybe I would like it better, but I like chocolate a lot.
I wouldn't recommend the strawberry. The chocolate is superior. So just stay unaware of that one. Don't waste your money. So on the topic of food, if your project was a dish, what dish would your project be and why?
Strawberry shortcake. It would be something sweet, something, and also I don't know. Like, I love strawberry shortcake. Maybe I'm just hungry. But I don't know. It just like, I feel like it would be something. It would be a dessert for sure. I don't know why that's like it's a dessert, but I think strawberry shortcake is just so pretty. It's like the perfect little like spongy cake with strawberry and the whipped cream. That's what it would be.
All right,
love it.
Sounds good. So for the last couple questions, we're going to shift completely away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Oh my God. My dad used to be a chef. My dad's shrimp scampi and Thai tea. I love Thai tea.
Thai tea is the best.
So good. I don't know if that would, go well together, but I'm like, I just love both of those.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's fair. It doesn't matter. If it goes together or not. It's delicious either way. So if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
Wow. I don't know. This is gonna sound so stupid. So there's this fantasy series I like, called A Court of Thorn and Roses, and it's like pre-technology. It's like they all wear this like leather armor and they shoot arrows and shit. Like, I literally, when I read that book, I was like, I want to take lessons to like learn how to shoot a bow and arrow, because I just really want to do that. So I would say that, because I don't know, it just seems interesting. Because I don't really want to say anything like Twilight or Harry Potter, because I don't really I don't dislike Harry Potter, I just never got into it. So I would say like this fantasy series that I really love, because I would love to like exist where it's just all pretty and there's fairies and immortal people.
Sounds awesome.
Perfect.
So I have not investing the last question. Every single person that we've spoken to have said that it is the most important question. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is like blood red, or it switches, or forest green.
Okay.
Ooh, good colors.
Yeah. Agreed. So as I said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you'd like to plug?
Okay, so I'm trying to think about when this is coming out. Okay, so Listen to Girl Next Door came out a few months ago, 4 months ago, I don't even know now. I have a song in the new Scream movie. Listen to that. Fucking love Mike Shinoda. Thank you for having me. And then I have a tour with Maggie Lindemann. So go see that. It's going to be super fun. And thank you guys so much for having me. This was so fun.
Of course. You're a blast. All right. Well, thank you for now. It's been Kailee Morgue, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.